Hi everyone, and welcome to this new episode of my PhD diaries. I'm sitting here with a cup of tea. This episode is going to be long, so make yourself comfortable, get yourself a tea, a blanket, whatever makes you feel good. And let's get started without further ado. Thanks for joining me on this one. We will cover the topics of frustration of oral coordination and mentorship as a solid solution for this. So I went back into revising my goals from 1 year ago almost, since I realized that I am 9 months in. I just want to share my story very subjectively with true emotion, in the moment, in the flow. I have some notes that I'm trying to take during the week or a month or maybe a longer period. The first thing that I have here written down is feeling hopeless and frustrated. Well, who are we to not feel that? First of all, frustration, burnout, as if it's something indispensable. What do you imagine when you have this picture in mind of someone doing his or her PhD? I think in my mind is quite strongly associated with an image of a frustrated person who definitely has periods of very low periods of a breakdown, of a burnout, all that kind of stuff. In my mind, and I think it's not only in my mind, in a way, we associate the failure to a path of getting a PhD. Well, I think it's also canonical because as you are doing something that has to deal with experimentation, it has to fail. I mean, it cannot work out all the time. For me, this whole program is about experimenting, about treating life as a laboratory, that approach that I've talked about previously. However, when I started, I think I was really trying hard to reassure myself, first of all, and then all the others, that there are degrees to feeling frustrated, that there are degrees to difficulty and complexity that you can reach and that you want to reach during your program. Yes, maybe for some of the institutions, there's a limit to how low you can get into the complexity, but I feel like for most people, it is about this competition with yourself and proving yourself that you can do your best. Well, this gets you into a vicious cycle for sure. There are degrees of complexity, how well you can perform during your PhD program in order to validate it, and those can vary. It's up to you to choose on which, orbit you are. It really does depend on your ambition, on your expectations about yourself, but also on the surroundings, on the people around you. But I think it's all about the challenge. If you don't find your task difficult enough, you get bored. But overcoming the challenges definitely makes you happy. So it's kind of what we impose on ourselves, all those goals that we want to reach during a PhD. Whereas I am pretty sure that in order to validate the PhD, you can do a bare minimum and that would still be okay. I would say that I'm now trying to see how deep should I go. Do I want to go all the way with all the effort in, or do I want to do something low-key version of a PhD and then graduate and then move forward? I've got a feeling that all the way before the PhD program, I've been on the stairs and I've been skipping the steps in order to reach the end. But first of all, it's hard because you have to put a lot more effort in order to skip a step rather than just to stand on it and use it as another support to get on the next level. So it's exhausting. It may also be very inefficient in terms of your knowledge and your skills, because yes, you can get things done. No, you don't learn the skill. And it's like all the time on the scale, there is skills and knowledge versus moving the project forward with your management skills and all that soft skills that you have. And so I would say I've been down for several weeks thinking about this and realizing that my project does not move forward as fast as I wanted it to be, and that my mundane daily job is just coordination, management, like coming to all of my colleagues and saying, hey, have you done this? Have you done that? But in reality, it's not about acquiring skills. It's not about learning something new. It's not about actively doing something. Delegating, which is also a great skill. But I would say that I'm pretty good with project management. I've already had it before, so it's not something I'm actively learning, even though, of course, I'm learning, I'm mastering the skill too. So my frustration was most about not feeling that the project is moving and about not feeling that my skills or knowledge is moving either. Well, the first about the project and its progress, I know that you have to invest first in order to get some dividends, so I'm pretty sure that in the long run a little can go a long way. But in terms of over management, I think I have to leverage this advantage in order to get myself results, in order to advance and move forward and progress. But at the same time, I have to actively dedicate some time, to block time in my calendar in order to do what I want to learn. Like I have this Coursera course that I've been meant to do for months. And then there is a book about EEG processing that I really wish to learn more about, and I also don't find enough motivation to start reading this because I have more urgent things to coordinate, right? And then I want to get my hands on a pilot data, but it's literally the paralysis of analysis. And so at some point I asked myself, Olesia, what can you do in order to stop feeling hopeless, helpless, frustrated? What can you do? What can you actually change in this situation? And so I used something that I've always loved. It's mentoring. Career coaching sessions are a very good tool in order to stop your frustration and start doing, and it can give you instruments like tools that you can actually use in order to get yourself out of that feeling and to start acting, of course. But this time I did something a lot more funnier than just a mentorship program. I went on a mentorship trip. First, I spent a weekend in Leipzig, staying there with my good friend who I met in Paris before and who has worked on my project for some period of time. That was very fruitful. It was very nice moments spent together. I think it can also be related to the other point of letting yourself to rest even when you feel that the time is ahead of you. I know it's not the easiest step to take, as your anxiety may stop you from the real relaxation, but try to make an agreement with yourself. For example, during this vacation, I will figure out what to do next, and I will at least write a plan. It usually helps me, so try it out. Then I went to another city to see my previous lab who I used to work with and who we are now finishing our projects with. It's been very nice to see my previous supervisor and talk to him in person because I did my internship during COVID times, so I actually saw him only several times before that. And then I spent a whole week in Berlin with my friend who came from another country. We were actually pet sitting a cat of another acquaintance, and there had so many great coaching especially because she comes from a different field of science, but she's graduating from her PhD now. And I'm very proud of her, of course, and I think she has a lot experience to share. And she likes talking about it, and I like asking questions. It was very much of a good time spent and equally supporting, I would say. Another thing to mention is the long-term mentorship, the one that provides you with continuous support. And it is especially useful if you're not represented by your supervisor, for example. I did this during the master's when I felt quite isolated from the research or scientific career, and it worked just as a change of surroundings. The more talk about your desired career trajectories, the more clear they become to you. Short-term mentorship programs often happen at the conferences, and those can randomly connect you to people who you might have thought are extremely far away from your usual orbit. As long as you know how to adapt your questions, you can also easily adapt their experience to your needs. So it turned out that the whole week, the whole 10 days of traveling was actually packed with mentoring, and I loved it. I highly recommend doing something that is called peer mentorship. There is much power in non-hierarchical but rather linear, horizontal mentorship, and just sharing your experience with someone who's experiencing the same things. It can be very fruitful. I like to balance my life with friends as far from academia as possible. I want to always remember that my PhD program is just a part of my life, and my life, me, is actually a lot bigger than the program itself. It's hard to remember it, it's hard to concentrate on that. In this case, I really cherish the outsider opinion because they can bring up a new angle in my old problems, in my old worries. But at the same time, I find it very helpful to talk to someone who is in my field or in the academia in general. And that's the part why I'm doing those videos, and that's the part why I'm watching YouTube that is academia related, just because I want to share this part of me with the rest of the world. Whereas that doesn't mean that I'm only doing this. I guess I'm also going through an identity crisis, but thank you for supporting me. It's really, really, really motivating. It's been such a pleasure to read the comments and just to see people watching my videos. That's crazy. I'm happy to have you with me on this crazy journey. Let's see where it brings us. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you very soon in the next one. Bye.